I learned from my father and my grandfather before him about just the little things that people do for you that you never will see, right? Like, obviously, I'm a poster child for people who've prayed for me, people who've said nice things when I wasn't there in rooms that I didn't even know about that have benefited me throughout all of my journey. I'm Justin Tuck. My family consists of my beautiful wife, Lauren. We've been married as of April 12th, 17 years. My oldest son is Jace, he's 15, and I have a younger son named Jonah, who is about to turn 12. So when it comes to that whole thing about paying it forward, one thing that me and my family have always lived by is like, you can't pay it back, right? Because you don't even know where to start paying it back. So with all the successes or opportunity or access that we have, we should be trying to figure out ways to grow the pie, not take a bigger piece of the pie, right? So like for anything I ever try to accomplish in life, I'm always trying to figure out how do I take somebody with me. Yes, I can succeed doing this, but how do I take 3 or 4 people with me on this journey? And that's kind of how he thought about things. But at 5:45 in the morning, whatever, over the years there were different cars, but I remember that car cranking up and he had to be at Russell Mill at 6 a.m. He was not gonna be late, right? So just the consistency around his work ethic, something he instilled in me, whether that was through sports or school or et cetera. And that's the one thing I try to kind of tell me and my wife and just try to live in that world of consistently. As my father's son now, I appreciate just the everydayness of the relationship. I was truly, truly blessed to see real men. I just had so many people in our small community that gave me a vision into what it really means to be a man, a father, and to show up every day in your own little way. There's not a real model to this. It's just, hey, what's the foundation? The foundation is, as a father, I have to do this every day in order for my kids to benefit from whatever I benefited from before me. Again, just trying to, it's hard to answer these questions because I don't think there's anybody who understands like the dynamic of how I grew up and where I grew up, and the fact of the matter is 200 people in this town and 85 of them probably are last name Tuck. 11 houses in a row of Tucks and cousins. If I include cousins with different last names, it's probably like 15, 20 houses in a row, whatever. When I think about my father and his consistency around his faith, when I tell you we were in church, there's only one day of the week where I can remember we didn't have like a sanctioned day to be in church. It was Thursday. Sunday, obviously, I was the superintendent of Sunday school, so I had to start church. So 9:30, I'm opening the doors to church. If we didn't have another church to go to after our session, we got home at 2. But 99% of the time, we had church elsewhere after that. Because my dad was a deacon, and Ursha did the finances of the church, was the landscaper, was you name it. We were part of every board, every mission of the church we were a part of. And by we, I mean my dad and his kids. Right, and like again, small town, so it was like we didn't have like one of these mega churches. It was probably 30 to 50 people that came to church every Sunday, right? And again, 25 more last name Tuck. So everything that went around the church, we were a part of. There's a lot of people searching for meaning. I don't have that problem. I know what my meaning is, and again, going back to your question, how do I consistently show that to my kids? That's the goal. I think a lot of people think about being the best. But what if the best is only like half of what your best is, right? If we comparing ourselves with other people, right? If you scored 40 points, and you're like, oh, I had the most points. Well, it was your best game. And I've started to get into this world where I'm always trying to give my best. Because my best is regardless, it's gonna be the best anyway, right? Because it's the most I could do. Don't succumb to like, okay, what's the standard because it was the best. No, the best doesn't necessarily mean your best. As a father now, those are moments I go back to when I'm trying to convey these same, characteristics to my kids, or these same moments to my kids about what actually they could accomplish. What I love about my relationship with my kids is especially when it comes to being an athlete, I know what it takes to do that. I'm not filling them with the fluff that everyone's telling them how great he is. No, you're not that great. Regardless if it's soccer, or in my case it was football, or if it's school, or if it's, whatever it is that he wants to do, when you build a foundation of the work ethic, the sacrifice needing to be great in one thing, I think it's like the statement of, hey, show me how you do one thing, I'll show you how you do everything. The best thing I could have did for my son when it comes to his support system is marrying the woman that I married. And my son has said, he wants to play, D1 soccer in college. So I hold him to that. That is the only support system that I care for my kid to have, for that matter, because I don't need other people coming in and telling him how great he is and filling his head up with nonsense, no matter if he's great or not, right? I just need them to understand that, this world is not the Tuck household. The Tuck household is this loving, nurturing place where, we're gonna push you to the brink of your limits because we see the potential in you. But if you fail, then you have this support system that's gonna come back and say, hey, that's not failure, that's a learning, right? And here's what you should learn from that. And don't hold your head low, because I can give plenty of examples of people who quote unquote failed that you hold as heroes now, right? It speaks to something that I think Eastside Golf has made one of its pillars, and that's community, right? I think I've done a really good job of surrounding myself with fathers who have similar approaches to fatherhood as I do, but also fathers that have a different approach. And it's kind of like we have a group of guys who, we don't necessarily meet to only talk about fatherhood, but we meet, we go to dinners together, we sit in the backyard, smoke a cigar, whatever it may be, and have conversations about what is going on in our lives. And I learn a lot through that. Confident in my abilities to father my kids because I see them every day. I think when it comes to being a good father, you have to make fatherhood a passion. Never look at it as work. Is it difficult? Is it hard? 100%. Listen, I'll be very blunt and honest when I say that there's times when my kids need me that I can't necessarily be the father that I want to be because a lot of different factors for that matter. And that's, again, the blessing of having my wife be as, magnificent as she is in that world. If you're trying to be the perfect father, good luck. Whoever came up with work-life balance, they lied. There is no work-life balance. If you say that the work is on this side and the balance is on this side, the balance will suffer sometimes, the work will suffer sometimes, and whoever is in between will suffer sometimes. And then there will be excess sometimes, but it's no balance. It's today presents whatever today presents, and how you maneuver through that day, something will suffer and something will get more of an attention to that. And I think that's healthy. I think that's common, as long as the parties involved, whatever side it is, understands that and they feel like you're still showing up for them. I think it goes back to what this is all about, right? Fatherhood. I think my dad instilled in me that, I don't know the PG version of this, but your shit stinks too. I do a really good job of just keeping the main thing, right? And I know that's easy to say, but at the end of the day, you talked about these accolades, you talked about these quote unquote successes. If that is, and this is me talking, it might work for someone else, but I've constantly felt holes when I've made those things the main thing. If you told me, hey Justin, what would you say if all your memories of football were erased? I would say, let's go make some new memories about something else. What would you do if you had to start over at $0? Like, well, listen, I grew up on a pig farm. Tilling dirt for crops. And I say that, and like, obviously, no, I don't want to go back to doing that. But if I had to do that, what's so bad about that? So like, I guess I'm trying to answer your question by saying, I know where I'm from. That has shaped me into the man that I am today. I wouldn't have the successes that I've had today if I wasn't the man that I am because of how I was shaped. You know, when I got drafted by the New York Giants, I had less than $5 to my name, and I was fine, happy, great. Why did because my bank account changed that something else had to change? Now I'm getting in this world of like keeping up with the Joneses and going back to the city's undefeated. No matter how much success you garner, no matter how many friends you get to go to these exclusive clubs with, all that stuff can be taken from you like that. So I try my best to focus on the things that can't be taken away from me like that. And that's the stuff that truly, truly marks my day as far as how I move. Because at the end of the day, these successes are vanity plays. They really are. I just want to be a good steward of my successes. I don't necessarily want them to define me as a human being. I think fatherhood has taught me that I am not patient, but it also has taught me patience. Because you've been a father for 15 years, it's just like, oh, I got it figured out. No, I don't. There was a Instagram meme that I saw about fatherhood that I think I might have cried when I saw it. And it was a father and a son, and it was like a picture of these blocks out of the father. It was like pieces of the father, and it was showing the silhouette of a father, the silhouette of a son, and there was holes in the father and there was holes in the son. And it basically what it was showing was, as a father, your job is to take pieces of you and fill the holes of your son. Now in fatherhood, this ain't a score type of game. This is an endurance. This is an endurance to the end type of game.